What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Selling Yourself or Selling Yourself Short podcast. I'm Jonathan Farrell. I'm here with Mr. Scott Hardy.
Good morning.
And Miss Palmer Hardy. How are you both today?
Great. Fantastic.
Well, we are on episode 3 already of our podcast, and we got some good topics today, specifically about the commission lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so most people in this world who are on salary, we were just talking about this, who are on salary, it's like, I'm in that saving type mentality. Commission, we got the ups and downs, obviously. So The one I always think back to the, you got to spend money to make money, and half of my earnings are going towards advertising to get that next deal.
Right.
So, I mean, how is it like for people who are stressing about, okay, I'm in that saving mentality. How can you, if you're especially in sales, how can you get into that? No, I got to spend money to make money, or I just need to start cranking it out there and earning more.
Well, in sales, there's two opportunities. You can go get a salary somewhere, and then they basically, every time you make a sale, they own everything about that sale. They kind of buy it out ahead of time.
Right.
And then there's a commission sales program where you can have a small commission along with your salary, all the way up to nothing but commission, like you and I live.
Right.
Like I have a lot of educators in my family, and I call it the guaranteed income life. I mean, if you don't think we're competitive in the private sector, wait till they try to cut funding to the arts at your school or your educational program, and watch your 65-year-old career teacher who is a grandmother and a homemaker and a writer and an educator's taught math. She's lived on it. She will turn on you in a second, and she'll be sharpening her fingernails because she wants that money for her classroom, right? So we all have this drive, right, to get what we need to do our thing. And one of the I'll tell you a story in a second, but one of the things that I noticed is people try to save their way to everything. And I only work in commission-only environments. My wife, the first time I was in commission-only, she didn't even realize it. The second time I told her I was taking a commission-only job, she freaked out, and she said, "No, where's your base salary?" And I said,
Because of the security, right?
Yeah, I'm like, "Well, but honey, the most money I've ever made was in that one job. I was commission-only." She said, "No, it wasn't." And the reason why is because the money became consistent.
Right.
And if I can take your salary and show you how much money I would pay you if I didn't have to guarantee you money. By the way, the reason why the salary program is horrible for salespeople as a group is because, and I'll use you as the example because you're a top performer so you can handle it, because you are the loser on the team.
Yep.
Right? And you cost us money. Okay, you're supposed to do 7 deals a month and you barely do 1. I do 33. She does 20, and you got 3 other people that do 5.
Right.
Well, we're carrying it all, but we can't get paid appropriately because it costs money for you.
For my salary.
We want you gone.
Loser.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you want us gone because we make you look bad.
I'm out.
Right. So let me just tell you a little story. Let me tell you how, how did I even want to make money? Right? I mean, I have relatives that it doesn't seem like they want anything except to live with their parents.
How would you not want to make money?
Well,
the way you were raised?
Well, this is the thing. So this is a good story, I think, for the reality of the world we live in and the things that you see as a child and that can affect you positively and negatively. Men in my life showed me what to do, and other men showed me what not to do.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is an example of both. So when I was 15 years old, my Uncle Bill, who has become my mentor, I mean, he taught me everything, literally, in sales, and he's really the only one I would listen to. I mean, for having low self-esteem and not thinking much of myself, I sure didn't listen to anyone. I don't understand how that worked when I didn't feel that, powerful mentally when I was young.
Absolutely.
I still didn't take advice very well. And so...
Do you think it's because you related to him, though?
No, I think it's because I'm related to you.
No, I don't. Yeah, I understand.
So what happened was he said, "Hey, will you come down? I have to work, and your Aunt Sandy is, she's finishing her doctorate degree at Irvine, and so will you come down and watch the kids during the day at work?" I was 15.
Right.
My sisters. I grew up with 4 sisters, and they all babysat, and I never really had to. You know, when I did, I just ate all your food and watched TV and made sure the kids didn't kill themselves. And that was about it. I didn't like babysitting, right? So I was 16, I mean, you know, back in 15, 16, 14. So I was 15 and a half. I remember this very specifically because people would let me drive their car a little bit back then. I was old enough, I was getting my learner's permit. Yeah. So we go down to Irvine, and he's gonna pay me $300. $300 for the summer, which is basically at that time about 2.5 months. I hadn't made any money but 25 cents an hour digging post holes for this guy named Audi down at the end of the street. You know, I mean, I was like, all right, this is great money. Well, my grandfather lived in Monarch Beach, which is basically next to the Ritz-Carlton and around Laguna Beach, okay?
I love Monarch Beach.
He invented the motorcycle oil cooler. But as with anything, just because someone has a lot of money, it doesn't mean they have to pay for everyone else.
Absolutely.
So we happened to be up in Redding, California. My parents got divorced when I was in 4th grade. And, you know, we ended up almost homeless. You know, I watched our van get repossessed. I heard my mom on the phone trying to, you know, negotiate the payments on the house, and almost, I mean, it was just.
So remember, 5 kids.
Yeah, there's 5 kids, there's no food, you know, I learned to steal cheese at a young age, you know, things like that, right? To take care of what had to be done. And I'm the oldest. So I had five sisters total, but these 4 that I'm growing up with, I'm the male. And I took that responsibility as I have to somehow protect and do this. So I'm down there and I'm making some money. And I go over to my grandpa's house because my Uncle Richard, we called him Dick, Uncle Dick. Uncle Dick and I are gonna go surfing. He's gonna take me surfing, teach me to surf. I didn't even really know how to surf. And we show up, and when I walk in, I had $7 in my pocket, and it's all I had that I had come down to the air with. And he picked me up, and we drove over there, and he had a Porsche, and he was 10 years older than me. And that was a company car through Lockhart Industries. And he had a corporate card, and he had, you know, all the stuff. So we're gonna go surfing. First, we're gonna eat lunch. But hey, we're gonna go see Grandpa. And I found a quarter on their driveway. So now I have $7.25. And you know, I'm 58. So this is a long time. This is in the 70s.
Right.
That was worth
That was
something.
money.
That was like 2 candy bars, you know, 25 cents was
When
2
a
candy
quarter
bars.
meant something.
It meant something. And so I'm standing there next to this incredible sound system that my grandpa has, with it looking out view of the ocean. You can see through this one window, right? They're up on the hill. There's a pearl double neck guitar sitting there that is my uncle's. I mean, it's just everything. They're musicians. There's this giant bass. There's everything. I mean, I have
Wealth you're not used to seeing.
I literally have one of those little recorders that are about a 4x5 with a wire earplug that I've snipped off and then wired into a bass amp plug that I run through a bass amp at the base of my bed. That's my stereo at home. But listening to Nazareth and Kiss, right? You know, that's what I'm listening. Okay, so they've got everything, and I'm just, wow, I'm blown away. They have an atrium when you walk in, and Uncle Dick says, hey, Dad, I need some money for parking. You know, can I have $5? And Grandpa whips out a $100 bill in the 70s. Believe me, that got my attention. I got $7. I just found a quarter in your driveway. What could I find if I wash your car? You know, like, what's going on here? Hands him $100. He's like, Dad, that's too much. I don't need that much. And he says, no, Dick, just take it. I need some change for later. I need my smaller bills for later. So we go to Dana Point, and we go and order at a restaurant that I've taken you and everyone to later in life. And he goes first, and then he pays. And then he steps aside. And I said, oh, are we separate? Remember, I don't have any money, really. Right. So he's like, yeah, you know, he's got a green American Express card, and it says Lockhart Industries on it. And he says, this is my corporate card. I'm not really supposed to use it. I really am careful. I never really use it. All of a sudden, the clerk, this is why it's imprinted on me, says, sir, can you come back? His card was so worn out from doing the knuckle buster, they couldn't make an imprint.
But he barely used it.
Right.
But he barely used it.
Right.
So they had to write that down. Okay, so then he leaves. Well, I could afford, it's true story, I got a cucumber and a cream cheese sandwich. That's all I could afford, right? So I got that. I mean, it's expensive down there. We're down at the ocean in Southern California. I'm from Redding.
Yeah, let's not forget that $100 he had in his pocket, though.
Yeah, let's not forget that also, which I think I did at the time. So I then went down to Grandpa's trailer at Dana Strands Beach. At the time was the Dana Strands Club. Okay, there's homes built there now. It's a cove on the north side of Dana Point.
Right.
So the Knoll Dana Point has a a very nice beach there, and it has kind of a wedge effect where the wave will hit the
Isn't that where I
wall.
learned to surf?
That's where you learn to surf. So the wave will hit the wall and bounce back, and then when the next wave comes in, they'd hit each other and jack up, and it was just it was so fun. I mean, we'd literally go there in the morning, we'd be there all day. Well, this was the early days, and so they're all white trailers except my grandfather's. It's black in the sun because it's going to cost more to keep it cool. And that's a show of wealth, right? All these shows of wealth. He had a Rolls Royce. He had everything. And I'm like, they had pickles in their pickle jar. We just had the beads. Honestly, they had regular milk. We had non-fat dry milk. Our milk was in a box, powdered, you add water, okay? Like, I'm watching all of this, right? And I went home and I said, I want this.
Yeah.
I want this. I do not want to be poor anymore.
Absolutely.
I do not like this. Okay. So that set off a whole mindset. And I worked hard. I went and got jobs. My friends wouldn't take the job as the dishwasher. I took it. You know what they paid a dishwasher back then? $4.55 an hour. Well, everyone else was getting $165. So
I'm taking
I was
a dishwasher
killing it.
job.
I'll do a dishwasher. I'm wearing my cutoff shirt, showing off my muscles, spraying people with a hose. It's a blast, right? So what happens is I develop this mindset. If I want it, earn more to go get it. Well, you put me in a job where I only make $30,000 a year. That was my job at Showtime. $30,000. At the end of the year, if I did everything right, I could get a $5,000 bonus. I don't like that. I go to a home shopping network. Now they're paying me, it's 1989, they're paying me $62,000 a year. Again, with these small little bonuses. And finally, I get hooked up with a company named American Express. And they don't pay a salary back then at all. And I'm like, well, what?
What do I do?
Now what do I do? And so it came out in Seattle, Washington, 1994, when she was born. It literally came out where I said, I'm just going to have to sell my way out of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to sell my way out of this. And when you're in commission only, you get hit by how many Amway presentations have I had to sit through in my life? Too many.
Right.
And I don't want to do that, because if I take the time that I would be required to do a separate job like Amway or any of the Herbalife or those different things, which can be good for some people, I would make so much more money at my company, at my own job.
Yeah.
And that is where the key. People miss the point that if you lay on a pile of sand in the wind to protect it, by the time you stand up, there's not going to be any sand left.
Absolutely.
That is saving your way to wealth. And there's a huge market for that today, where I go, I suffer, I don't. Now listen to what's happening today. You're a mortgage broker. Tell me, how many people are going in and out of Texas and California to save money?
Too many right now. Well, everybody's moving
What are
to
you
Texas.
doing with Texas?
We just picked up a new client who's moving from Texas.
Yeah, we just went and looked for office space in Texas because that's where our next license is going to be.
And why?
Yeah.
Why?
Everybody's moving to Texas.
And why are they moving to Texas?
Because they're getting the heck out of California.
But why?
Because of taxes.
To save money.
And to save money. Absolutely.
Okay, so just as a sidebar for our listeners, and I'm not an expert in this. I just know enough to be dangerous. So check this out. Did you know that there's no state income tax in Texas?
Yep.
Did you know there's state income tax in California?
Yep.
There's not in Tennessee either.
Did you know that
Texas,
there
Tennessee, Florida,
is-
no state income tax.
Yeah. Did you know that there is a higher tax rate on your home
Yes.
in
Because
Texas?
of that.
Yes. So
Okay.
the average tax rate in Texas, you got to take a look at it from the offset. So people are moving from California. They're willing to pay higher on their monthly house payment because of the offset of California income tax.
And isn't the home itself worth? They're buying it.
It can
from
be,
us
well, it depends,
sometimes.
because if you look at what's been happening, especially in this market right now, the housing prices are increasing just as much. So
Everywhere.
you're still going to be buying about a $550,000 house if you move to Texas. Your taxes are going to be about $12,000 a year because you're going to be paying at a 2.75 tax rate. So compared to California, yes, the property income taxes are lower, but when you take a look at what you're paying in state income tax, it's technically a wash. So then you got to take a look at other factors too. So you move to Texas, you're not paying
They have
$4.50.
chiggers and fire ants.
True.
So that's not a wash.
But you take a look.
I don't like chiggers.
You take a look at gas prices, right? California gas prices right now. I just look because I got to fill up my car because I'm on dead empty right now. I was running late to get to the podcast. It's $4.12.
Mm-hmm. What is it at Costco though?
Well,
that's why Costco's crazy.
In Texas right now, because I was just there 2 weeks ago looking for office spaces because we're gonna crush Texas right now in mortgages.
Yeah.
We're looking at $2.50. So there's another offset.
Yeah.
So
let me throw this in
more
there.
people have those giant trucks and stuff.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So do you know how many homes have faulty foundations that cost people around $40,000 to fix?
Oh yeah.
They're in Texas.
They're in Texas.
Did you know that they don't really have any rules for building in general, and that the low points of thousands and thousands are home built there? So the reason why people have less taxes is because they don't collect revenue.
Sure.
And they have less services. And when she lived in Memphis, Tennessee, she got to see what that result. In Memphis, they're all in prison now, but all the politicians stole all the money and did the things that Texas has been doing for years, right? So guess what? She got to see that the curbs are broken.
Right.
That the streets aren't done. And then Texas built this city, by the way, Houston, and they forgot to put a freeway in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to go around it. And I don't know about you, but I value my time.
No, absolutely.
I don't commute. I'm not a commuter.
Well, yeah, because you also don't factor in the wear and tear on your car when there's potholes when you're going on the freeway and everywhere throughout.
What are we
and
doing?
Also, by the way, just a fun fact about Memphis, Tennessee, there's, when it snows, which it does, it does snow, there is one salting truck, and it's for the airport. So the entire city shuts down when it snows, whether it's just a thing of ice or it's an inch or two, whatever. You can't go anywhere because it's slippery, black ice, everything. So we got a whole week off because I was a teacher at the time of school when there was a slate of ice on the ground.
So, but let's.
And
so,
the internet never works. But I'm a California boy. I was born and raised here. I have run national sales forces. I've been in every city, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you wake up in the middle of the afternoon, okay, and you don't realize because you're just really groggy where you're at, and you step out into Texas, Sacramento, California, Omaha, Nebraska, I can give you a list of them, Boise, Idaho, and you walk down the street, you're not going to know what state and what city you're in.
It's all the same.
It's cookie cutter,
very true.
Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, blah, blah, blah.
I've been to all of them. I can attest to this.
Every single time.
True.
So what I tell everyone is this. What did you want for quality of life?
Sure.
See, I'm going to build a new home on 10 acres with a view in between the ocean and Temecula.
Right.
And it's going to be about 2,100 square feet. Because when I built the 5,700 square foot home, right, it took too long to get from my bathroom to the kitchen. Or vice versa, if you had to go.
Have you calculated?
Totally.
I totally calculated how many seconds it takes for me to get from my bedroom to the kitchen. It's 12 seconds.
12 seconds. Well, when you get older,
seconds.
Slow walking.
Right.
What's the pace
No, I mean, that's just walking. So
just
I mean,
average.
But again, it's just experience, right? The supreme gift in life is experience. So what do you want? It doesn't matter. Okay, good. You like a big house. You want to stay in your house all day. Then you need to go somewhere where they do. I don't want to be. I have skin problems from being in the ocean too much. I love being outside. My entire life has been spent in the field. 2 years of my life, I worked in an office and I thought I was going to kill myself. It was horrific. I had to show up.
That's
to work.
what makes you the ultimate salesman. It's
Every
get out and
day.
network with people.
We don't want to be judged on our hours spent.
Right.
What is the deal, right? So when you're selling your way out of things, okay, you have to have a couple of things going for you. Number one, you need to be in a commission job, okay? You have to have the ability to make extra money quickly, right? So when I close a deal, I can get paid in a week or two, right? So what I want to do is I want to look at what I'm going for and have a way. Most people are in some form of a relationship with a significant other. That other is the biggest problem you'll ever find in growing as a business person, because the risks you need to take and the risks you're willing to take or I'm willing to take are not the same risks as she's willing or he's.
They feel like your risks are also their risks.
Right. My wife wanted a nest and security, and she said to me one day, "I'm sick of this. It's like being on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I want the putt-putt train. Actual quote from Jill Hardy. I want to be on the putt-putt train. And I'm like going for it and almost making it and crashing and then this again and that. I mean, nobody gets as many chances.
Honestly, like the conversations that you have are the same conversations that I have.
You know what? It's crazy though. I'm in the literal opposite boat right now. My husband is moving from a salary job,
right,
with all the security, the bennies, everything, making really good money and stuff, and then his unhappiness, working way too many hours, and being on call all the time. Just basically, like, I think it was he got 1 day off a week, but not really, because he still had the phone and email and whatever.
Yeah.
And then wanting to just be happy and being able to make more money on his own time, and you know what I mean? And I was like, all for it. But I also have a salesman as a dad, so.
Well, let's talk about this too. Like. So I remember entering the industry, and I was the assistant, and I was on salary. And I went from making 10 grand a year to making 20 grand a year. I thought I was the coolest guy because I was all of a sudden, I doubled my pay, right? Then 1 year later, because it was, hey, you're on your own now. Go get the money. You learned enough. You know how to do it. I got the rug pulled out from under me.
Right.
So what do I do?
Safety net.
I got no safety net. The next day, me and my wife, I remember this, because it was I got told on a Friday. The next day, I took every single business card that I had and I passed them out at open houses. We drove every single open house. And I was like, I'm a lender. Give me a call. Because of that, because all of a sudden there was no safety net, it pushed me to be like, I got to get out there and provide for my family. Right. I brought in 7 deals the next week. And that was, I would like, again.
It's crazy
it's crazy. And that was fear, So fear for me was, I don't have my safety net anymore. I got to go provide for me and my wife.
But would you have cared as much if you were just a single man?
No.
Exactly.
No, I wouldn't. I would have been like, okay, it'll happen. I'm going to go get drinks this Friday and then play video games on Saturday.
But how many Americans are feeling that fear? And we were talking about unemployment, right? So, unemployment rates are insane and then, people talking about, well, it's because of that extra 300 and stuff. But it's like, why
God help us if help
oh
them.
my God,
right.
like $300 a week is what's saving people right now.
Right.
And people who have families like that, like my husband was on unemployment because, COVID, lost a job, moved, whatever. We had a baby and me that, he had to deal with. But so many people are in that boat where they're afraid because right now they have a little safety net.
Sure.
And they're afraid to put themselves out there because they'll actually make less because, minimum wage is just way too low.
Right.
And so it's like, how can we convince people that commission can be okay? Selling yourself can be okay because even though there's no safety net, right? It's like, how can we make a society where people aren't reliant on unemployment, that there is better ways out there, but and salary is not always better.
No. Salary, you have your ceiling, right? So this is the one thing too, because James, who's our producer, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. James Watson. So I brought initially when I was forming my team, I brought his brother on, and he said, I will not be salary. I will not be salary. I will not be hourly. I'm going commission.
Right.
Nice.
And it was, I've hit my cap at previous jobs before. I've hit my ceiling at previous jobs before. I'm unhappy. No matter what I do, I'm not going to make any more money. This is what I have, right? I'm going to sell my way into success. And literally, that's the conversation that we had.
Out of poverty.
Out of poverty. It wasn't necessarily poverty. It was like, hey, look, this for me has become a must, right? So one of the conversations that I had with one of my other loan officers too, it's like, why do you have these goals, right? So you have these goals and they're grand goals. Like beginning of the month in May, I literally came in and it's like, these are the goals that I have for the branch. And they're huge, right? Like we're going to hit 100 million in fundings this year. Like my personal production, I'm going to hit over 50 million. Like that's my goal. And like last year was an amazing year. Made a lot of money, have a lot of money saved up from that. But also at the same time, if I hit that again and I don't make my goal, this higher goal, what purpose do I have? right? For me, I'm very goal oriented. I have to hit these higher goals, and that like hitting those goals is what is making my wheels turn to get out there and want to sell and be obsessed, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm obsessed with selling, right? But if I don't have these goals, I have nothing. I'm just hitting my ceiling again.
Well, that's what. Go ahead.
Oh no,
Julie.
I was gonna say, and that's what we talked about last week. You do a lot of the goal games and stuff like that
Right.
in your office to motivate people like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But very, it's interesting because now realizing, because I went from a team of 3 to now a team where we have 15 people in the office, right? So my team of 3, we were all very goal oriented. And now that I have more and more people coming to my office, I also realize that goals don't necessarily drive everybody.
Right.
No.
Right? And so it was an interesting shift for me, especially speaking with some of the people who I brought on, because I'm like, yeah, we got these big goals, guys. We're going to be crushing it
And
with
they're
these
like,
goals. And they're like, yeah.
This is
Cool.
there's two things I'm hearing that I want to comment on. The first one is, you're talking about goals, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about how people are motivated. And the other one is, hey, salary versus commission, and it's worth the risk and all this. And let me just put it this way: I am the way I am because of the risk of working for other people.
Yeah.
I was like everyone else. I started in business. I graduated San Francisco State, and they're like, you need to go get a corporate job. And I, blah, blah, blah. My uncle helped me get to Showtime and all this stuff. And you know what they do?
This was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, you know what they do? They make sure they make money.
Yeah.
They don't make sure you make money. They make
sure
okay,
they make money.
Now, I become a good salesperson and I start moving around. And everyone's like, oh, I want experience and I need this and everything. Well, guess what? You have reorganized your company every 2 years because your senior management is so lacking that they don't know what to do. So they keep changing things.
Yeah.
So follow me on this. The changer gets to make all the changes until they're done changing. And then the changer gets changed.
Right.
If you're in a massive organization like Chase, Wells Fargo, it's endless.
Yeah.
If you're VP or higher, you never lose your job because you just blame everyone down the road.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the next thing. I have a division and I want to sell it off, but it's underperforming. Thank God I found Scott Hardy. He comes in and within 3 months, he's doing more than the rest of my team. He's completely turned this around. Scott, we're going to promote you. Now we've got this, and now we're into a year and a half, and we sold it because we never want to go through that again. We were suffering. We found a guy who could turn it around. It happened to be me. It's been other guys, my friend Scott Lure and Terry Hugan and Joe Pisano and all these guys. These guys go in, and if you're lucky enough to get us, this is how you get us. We end up in a bad situation.
Absolutely.
The last company I worked for decided to sell it. I started it in my loft. They gave me $2 million to build it. It took 4 years. One day they held a conference call and said they sold it. They sold it for $46 million.
Right.
Well, that was that. Guess what I did? I had to go get a job at Wells Fargo to pay my bills.
Right.
And that's my life story. Then you go to a corporation and this is what they're going to say to you. Oh, it kind of looks like you jump around a lot. You're like, everyone keeps selling their company.
Yeah.
I mean,
What am I
you read
supposed
it
to
in
do?
the paper, right? Okay, so where's the risk to be? I allow 2 people in my life in
Right.
general. I make exceptions because not everyone wants to hire me as 1099. They will need me to be their employee.
Right.
That's just the way they do it.
And
So
you've been there, and you.
I do it. Okay, I do it. I mean, I am trying to find a way to make as much money as quickly as possible because I've been through 4 market crashes.
Right.
And just like you, I've never stopped.
Right.
If you heard one of my stories, which you one time, you would say, I don't know how that guy got out of bed again.
Yeah.
I have a brother-in-law who said if one of the things that
we'll get to
happened to you,
those.
Yeah,
Scott,
we'll get to
happened
those.
to me, I would have stopped. That would have been that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, right? So 2008, market crashes. People lose
Rough.
everything. They lose their jobs. They lose their 401k, everything. Housing prices
Right.
plummet, right? So again, through that adversity, so many companies all of a sudden build up and become giants. They take advantage of those types of situations. So, and again, being an employee, you're at the mercy of
At will.
the company,
Yeah.
right? Business owners come in there, they take a look at adversity. COVID for us was probably, and I hate to say this, but
Yeah, it was a
COVID for us
blessing in
was
a
a
way.
blessing.
Yeah.
Because housing market has come out even stronger, right? Interest rates dropped to all-time lows. Everybody that I literally just had a purchase They need a refinance.
Yeah.
So what are we doing? Calling up all the past clients. Hey, we're refinancing you,
Yeah.
right? So through these adversities, businesses come out stronger, right? So 2008, look at everybody who lost their job, but then look at all the companies that came out of that.
In a messed up way, does it kind of seem like the Darwin theory, right? Like, but with businesses, like if the strong will survive.
Yeah.
In private industry,
right?
It works itself out.
But not only that, so I will say too, because I've had a number of friends who were in the salary positions that were let go, and it's like, what do I do? They've built companies during this time.
Yeah.
So that's been the cool part, watching them. Basically, it's a phoenix. You're rising from the ashes, right?
That's my daughter's name.
There
Well, I
you go.
watched.
It's a very good 2020 name.
Yeah, absolutely.
I watched this process happen, and I had some friends that worked at AT&T.
Right.
Okay, and the CEO of AT&T came out and made a public announcement nationally when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, real estate was shut down.
Yeah.
Right? We were out of business for 2 months.
2
Remember
months.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I remember that.
So let's.
I was freaking
Sweat.
out.
That, yeah.
I had deals falling out of escrow left and right. I'm like, holy crap! Like, what am I? I'm never
Because
gonna
people were
financially
losing their
recover from
jobs,
this.
right?
Yeah.
So they couldn't.
My wife
Yeah.
said, I'm not doing this again. And what she was referring to is crawling back after the market crash, after everything we've worked for is being stripped from us again. Okay. And it's never been the taxes.
Oh,
it's never been the gas prices.
We just signed this lease. We just signed the lease to this building. It's we're paying $3,800 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we're not
and
even
then
gonna
2
have
months of
we're not even gonna have enough to make the
Do you
lease
know what we
payment.
did? We increased our advertising with Zillow by 20 times.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
See, because we have skill and you have skill.
Right.
So we didn't do that right away, just so everybody knows. I mean, this is kind of an outtake.
It's a gradual. I mean, you have to. There's all these gradual increases.
I
that come from
meditated.
that.
I did what I was taught as a CEO, which most people hear and have heard this. And I'm going to tell you, all of you, if you don't take 1 day a week, I'm talking Monday through Friday, 1 day a week, and half that day to think about what you're doing and thinking about your day. If you are a leader and you do not do that, you are absolutely worthless long term.
Yeah.
Because you're going to turn into a squirrel and you're going to change things. You know what's going to happen? You're going to go to Martha's Vineyard. And you're going to find a book on sales that someone left behind. And since you're so bored, you're going to read it. And you're going to come back and try to change your entire sales organization because you don't really know what you're doing. Okay. You haven't really stuck. You don't understand how this works.
Yeah.
So let me go back to what happened with the CEO. Okay. And this is experience related to why I want to be in commission only. Why do I not want to be a middle manager? Because I don't produce anything. I just grab data and push it up the line.
Yep.
Okay. The best job in terms of job security is a district manager managing a sales force. And the most secure job is a performing salesperson.
Right.
The regional manager is absolutely worthless in 99% of it. If you go and watch, most people want to become managers because they watch their bosses at these big banks and stuff
Not doing
do
anything.
nothing
Yeah.
but wander around and talk.
Yeah.
And they're all political. And you're like, and they're going to the master's degree and they're getting a doctorate. You're like,
Right.
how do you have time to do all this? The company's paying for it. You're never paying attention to us. And every time we bring something to you, you just avoid it.
Right.
Because your competing commitment is that you don't want to get involved in anything you can't solve.
Right.
But you don't tell anyone that. So you just avoid us because you only want problems you can solve.
Absolutely.
Right? So can be an entire new podcast, by the way, competing commitments. How do you motivate people when they're not telling you
This
what
will be a branch off of selling yourself or selling yourself short.
Yeah. TBA.
James, write that down.
Put that in your right
Ideas.
pocket and
Write that
remember
down
it.
again.
Put it in your idea book.
So the CEO of AT&T says to everyone at the COVID break that and no one catches the language. This is why I'm a better speaker than I am a listener.
Yeah.
Because when I listen, I hear what you say. And most people, what they say is garbly-gook.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean anything. And people are all like, oh.
When one speaks, one usually says
One. I say you.
one.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
we were talking about this, like how we don't speak like that anymore. Sorry.
We don't.
When
people,
one speaks.
Yeah, because it's
Yes.
not when you speak; it's when
But
everybody
see,
speaks.
since he's the top performer, you can make fun of
I
him.
know.
and
You
he
can make
doesn't
fun of
care.
me, I don't
If
care.
he wasn't making his goals, he'd be crying in the corner. sucking his thumb.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
podcast would
His
not
self-esteem
even be.
is too fragile when you're not making your goal. You got to be careful.
It's so
Absolutely.
true. People become really defensive.
Oh, very
Yeah.
defensive.
How dare
Yeah.
you question my goals?
Yes.
I
yes.
am amazing.
Yes.
I
So
am
we don't remember our other
fantastic.
podcasts. We don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
We really don't. I mean, we'll act like we do, and
Right.
everyone will fake you out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
Are
if
you
you're in a
talking
large
about
corporation,
the corporate
they'll
world?
grow the role of
No,
HR
we personally don't care about your feelings.
is a representative.
I'm just kidding.
We think,
That's a joke.
I think that the role of HR in large corporations is the hitman for the legal department.
Yeah.
You know, like no,
100%.
you know. All right, so I don't like that, obviously. So here's what he says. He says we're not going to lay anyone off for the next 90 days, and I looked on LinkedIn, which I think is like the new Craigslist.
Oh yeah.
Green sheet. I mean, come on. I mean, please. I mean, listen, that's the yellow page. Just so you know, the LinkedIn is the yellow pages.
100%.
Okay. If you could get everything you need off of LinkedIn, Zoom Info and Crunchbase and those, they couldn't monetize our data.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be able to sell it. So right there, you know, as a salesperson, you need a resource today. Just FYI, everyone.
Go on LinkedIn.
You can't go to the library anymore like I used to. Seriously.
Yeah.
We used to say, be a student for a day. Put your backpack on, head down to the library, research your industry, research companies. And, you know, that's really what...
And LinkedIn is for like every industry, right?
LinkedIn is for finding a job.
Yeah.
And you're not going to convince me different. And I have been through everything. I have a company right now I'm working with, and they're trying to get me to market through it. For what? Why? I mean... Everyone's like, well, I get information on messages all the time, people selling stuff. And I go, and how many have you bought from?
Right.
Well, none, because I'm not the decision maker. I'm like,
Exactly.
That's the thing.
okay, well, I mean, I don't care.
However, have you tried Sales Navigator though? Because you can literally send it to the CEO.
No, this is my point. You need these types of things.
By the way, I've done that with Richmond American Homes. I've sent multiple messages to him. He hasn't read them yet, but when he does, I will.
When he does,
but when he does, I'll
get
get back to you.
It's in his spam box, but when he finds it, he's really going to go for it.
You know he's going to look through his spam box.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
we have all of those.
I get so many recruiting messages on LinkedIn that I don't even use my LinkedIn anymore.
Oh,
it's like every day. It's like, yeah, I saw.
First of all,
you want to open up a branch with us?
Let's point out something that a lot of people don't know. If you leave your LinkedIn open to updates to your market, you never get to reinvent yourself. This is the problem with Facebook. This is the problem with social media. Okay, do you know what kind of little screw off I was in high school? Okay, do you know that I had to learn to be a more responsible adult? Did you know that I had to learn not to pad my expense report and to not steal a pen from work? And I had to learn that. I'm sorry I wasn't born that way.
Right.
I had to learn that you don't feel good in your brain when you do the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like how I felt about myself. I stopped doing that. Okay, I stopped doing those things.
Sure.
But I did do those things. Okay, so I had to change. I had to modify my resume. I had too many 2-year jobs because everyone wants someone with my experience, but they've been sitting on their fanny in a corporate job for 13 years and they can't get that concept out of their head. And they're like, oh, you seem like you jump around. I mean, there's just one problem after another of trying to get into there. So what did we used to do? We used to change our resume, and I would call you up and I'd say, hey, tell them you were my boss, right? Okay, you want to get into sales management. The number one way you get into sales management is you add on your resume as a salesperson, selling manager.
Yeah.
Okay, why is it that everyone has to lie and fake everyone out? Because the system doesn't work.
Right.
How about when you're trying to get a new job and they say, well, we need someone with experience? How do you get experience without being
this is the
hired
crazy
for
thing.
experience?
So registered nurse, right? So my wife's an RN.
Okay.
She applied for every new grad program that came back to her and said, well,
what was it?
A new grad, meaning you're just fresh from graduation. We're going to put you in the hospital. Guess what? She needed 2 years of nursing experience to get into the new grad program.
Like what?
Exactly.
What, volunteering for 2 years or something?
Exactly.
Basically.
So what did she do? She found a job that was like, hey, per diem nurse. She's making way more money as a per diem nurse than she would as a new grad.
Yeah.
And working less hours.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I had a friend that was a doctor and was complaining about his pay. And I said, well, why don't you just go to work for GlaxoSmithKline and one of those drug reps? And he goes, well, one reason. And I go, what's that? And he goes, integrity. I was like, ooh. Because there's so much money in it, right? And so the idea of, selling your way out of things and being aware of the situation and being just personally responsible for how you produce is related to what I'm saying about this AT&T guy that's just, with you two, it's just taking forever to get to the end of the story.
Well, that's because you talk in circles also, like, let's be honest.
That's how I talk.
But that's why this is the podcast, though.
But this is how it goes. This is the reality.
Just keep up.
So what happens is, everyone's on LinkedIn. We got completely off track on LinkedIn, but everyone's on LinkedIn, and what they're doing is they're congratulating the CEO. They're all like, oh, that's leadership. That's leadership. And I couldn't resist. I'm sure I deleted it later.
What'd you say?
I always get in trouble on social media because I tell the truth, and listen, if you talk to another person, it causes conflict. Did you know that? That if you have ideas
if you open your mouth,
that's conflict. And
you're telling us that we're the one making you not tell us.
True. Yeah, but this is what I'm saying.
What'd you say?
Ideas are conflict. And I said, none of you read the press release. He didn't say he wasn't going to let you all go. He said he was going to wait 90 days.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Waited 90 days and let them all go.
They let them all go. And if you are out there listening and you worked for AT&T at the beginning of COVID, that's exactly what they did. And they didn't give you a severance and they didn't do anything. And I'm not here to pick on AT&T. I'm here to pick on corporate America.
Yeah.
I don't buy into what you're doing anymore. Your arbitration agreements have ruined us all.
Yeah.
I took it out at the physical therapy place yesterday. I took the arbitration agreement out and I threw it out and I gave them all the paperwork. And of course, they didn't catch it. I'm not signing them
I have
anymore.
a question for you. So one of my good friends just works for
I don't know how that's related, but
yeah, I don't know
what I was saying.
I think this is related. You guys tell me if it is. So one of my friends works for a small company, a swim school. And when COVID hit, obviously they couldn't be face to face with kids. They had to, shut down. So she didn't let all of her employees go. She basically lowered their hours a lot, barely paid them, and just did Zoom meetings and stuff, right? So my friend was barely making it. Like, good thing she had some savings because she was hourly and all that. And the owner was able to get the loan forgiveness and all that because
PPP loan.
And so it benefited the company because the business didn't have to go under and didn't shut down, but it totally screwed the employees because they made no money. They basically were still employed. They couldn't go on unemployment.
Right.
So that's not a corporation. When you talk about corporate America, that's
small
a small
business.
But it still screwed the employees because they were supportive of it because they didn't want the entire business to shut down because COVID, basically ruined so many small businesses like that. They still survived. They're back open now full time. But, how can you avoid that? Like, that's what I don't get is
getting a commission job.
Yeah, right?
Well, this is the profit motive, okay? This is always the profit motive. The profit motive is to survive. The business is an entity like a human being, and it must survive. Honestly, I remember working for guys that said this one time to me. It doesn't say bank out there. It says Team Electronics, which was the company I was in 18. I was working in Stereostore. Like, literally, wake up. Okay, well, we are not allowed to talk this way anymore. And that is truthful. Okay, harmony is the villain of growth. It stops growth. It gives stupid ideas attraction. Like, we have to let everyone speak. They never have any good ideas. I made this comment recently to a
James,
group of
can you make that a t-shirt?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I made this to a group of executives, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, the way they twist everything. Well, so I said it gives bad ideas traction, and people who are historically late for meetings, not paying attention, and always just talking for the sake of everyone already suggested this, but I'm going to suggest it so it looks like I'm making a difference, right? And no one calls them out on that. Nobody does anything. So this is what they said to me. There's a group of grown men. They go, well, but you just never know, because sometimes that person, blah, 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 comes up with the great idea.
The exception to the rule.
So here's my answer. I deal with mostlies. I don't care about the sometimes. I can't base my life on sometimes. Okay, if sometimes I get hit by a car, okay, I'm not going to act like I'm always getting hit by a car. Okay, I'm just going to drive, and I got to assume
most of the time I get hit by a car.
Sometimes I get ripped off from somebody. I'm not going to constantly act like everyone's ripping me off. I'm be completely paranoid.
I want to totally tie to this, but I'll save it for next time. No, I'll save it for next time.
We got some good stuff coming up for next time, guys. We appreciate you. We're going to have to wrap this one up. I know that this has been going a little bit long.
Next time I'm going to tie in the always into something, and I'm going to ask, that.
Ooh, that's
I'm
gonna be a
bring
good
it
one.
up.
So that what
Always
that means,
versus the
guys.
sometimes
You
people.
need to tune in to next episode, right?
Well, yeah, because of experiences of the people in the world. You've dealt with a lot of people throughout your life, or people from around the world and around the country. So, you have a lot of experience, not just in the sales world, but also just with people and, because
Real life.
and his clients,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
real life situations and stuff. So,
You know what the one thing that I love about sales is who I get to meet.
yeah.
Yeah, it is true.
Meet a
I
lot
like
of
the
people.
freedom.
Yeah.
I don't want to be tied to, a computer all day or anything. I want to get my work done, and I want to go live my life,
I'm
which
in
is the
sales
reason I
tied
earn
to
the
a
money.
computer all day.
Well, that's going to be.
Well, this is what I will say. For my section of wrap up is that the point of this whole talk is selling your way out of it. I want to leave you with this concept, okay? Because one of the things you see successful people do is buy expensive cars, and I wanted to make sure I got this in there today. So if I'm making $350,000 a year and I spend $1,700 on a car a month, everyone thinks I'm insane. But I'd like to point something out. That is 0.48% of my annual income.
Absolutely.
Okay? So when I convinced my wife, let me tell you.
I got one thing to say
get
about
this,
that. Too.
Okay, to say, this is what I did. I showed her. I said, but honey, what about a person that has a $200 car payment and they make $36,000 a year? She goes, well, that's reasonable. And I said, that's 0.55% of their annual income.
Everybody was knocking Charles Barkley for going and gambling, right? So he's gambling like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But if you take a look at his total income, that is minuscule.
Because you look at the ratio.
Because you look at the ratio of the percent. But to us, the people who aren't making millions and millions and millions of dollars,
We're like, what?
well, like, how are you gambling that much money away? But again, it's minuscule. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap up this podcast. I appreciate you guys listening. Coming from Two Mortgage Guys Studios, I'm Jonathan Farrell, Scott Hardy, and Miss Palmer Hardy. Thank you so much for listening to Selling Yourself or Selling Yourself Short. We appreciate you listening. Have a great day.
See you on the radio.
See you on the radio.
Radio.